edition of State of the State. I am Sunday Kolaole. Today we'll be State of Affairs of Ondo State, especially looking at the issue of public procurement and how well Ondo State is faring. I mean, today by the board or procurement, that's Ondo State procurement, Mr. Dubumi. It will that's straight to business. Most what's going on? Now you come to the States. You're also having Ministry of Finance, you have economic planning and budget. What is happening? Why are we also having Bureau of Public Procurement? What exactly are your specific areas of responsibilities? And then are there not overlapping functions between your bureau and these aforementioned agencies and ministries?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very good question. I agree with you that probably when you have too many agencies, for instance, you mentioned EFCC, ICPC, already we have a department of an anti-fraud department in the Nigerian police. So why not just strengthen the anti-fraud department instead of creating EFCC and ICPC? And then when you look at it, EFM was because there was no due process. Everybody just did things anyhow, and that is important. And so for such a department, there have never been such a department. Not like somebody would ask which cases should go to EFCC, which one should go to ICPC, which one will the anti-fraud department of the Nigerian police take charge of. So, but in this case, so the focal point of due process now becomes in Ondo State, the Bureau of Public Procurement. At the federal level, it's also the Bureau of Public Procurement. They had their acts. All the process that led to the acts was under the Obasanjo administration. But the law did not come out in time. The federal act did not come out in time. So in the first week of Musa Yar'Adua's government, he signed that particular bill into law. We delayed in Ondo State. Ondo State is one of the states that really delayed in getting its public procurement law, but ours was signed on August 8, 2017, that established the Ondo State Bureau of Public Procurement. Before that, we've had a project and price monitoring unit, but that's department. So it's not to say that there was not a department that was in charge of the process, but it did not have the strength of the backup by law. It was like a contraption, administrative contraption, a department that was established by a simple member. So of this particular bill, so but it was signed into law. So it would take the House of Assembly to also, which is way probably the executive will also send the bill and all that. But I don't think that is going to happen because by the grace of God, I want to believe that we are adding value to projects in Ondo State.
Performance indicators will be the justification for your assertion. And so let me ask, if you've been adding value, can we go specific? How well have you been able to add value, especially in terms of prudence in spending, and then when you also look at accountability and due process in public project execution? What are your scores?
Yes, I'll give some indication. For instance, at the guesstimates, since PPP got established to now, I would say we have saved the government nothing less than, at a rough guesstimate, not less than 5 billion naira. Because when people bring activity,
is it really just about cutting costs?
No,
cutting the money that anybody brings. What of if somebody has been underpriced? What happens? Do you also raise?
Yes, if it has been underpriced, because we don't want abandoned projects.
No, okay.
We don't want abandoned projects. In that area, for instance, there were some projects that were awarded during the past regime in the Niger Delta region of the Ondo State. Now, the error then was that those projects were awarded using the general rates, but there is no way that you can use a rate that will construct a block of 6 classrooms in Akure and use it for Agirige, or use it for Mararome, or use it for Pinama Zion and all those places. So those places, they have different rates. I've been there severally. You can't even get granite there. You can't get sand there. You can't even get artisans there. So you have to bring everybody from offsite, and it will cost you more. As a matter of fact, we did a survey and we divided those regions into 3. There are those places in the Niger Delta that are still on land, like Lage SMU. It's on land. If you go to Igbo too, it's on land. As a matter of fact, you can still access Agirige on land, and you can also access it on water. But around me, for instance, okay, I don't think the road, the Adabakuda road, is that as rich around here. So you have to put everything on boats. And those boats, they have capacity. So you have to take many trips. So all those are factored in. So we have what is called terrain factor for those particular region. And then there are those very far areas that it will take you hours to reach. So all those issues have been taken into consideration. So if you bring a lower rate, we'll also jack it up because we don't want the project to be abandoned. So,
Mr. Kishimala, more often those who execute projects, they also have affiliation one way or the other to politicians. If they are not even politicians themselves, let's face the fact. And these people would want to cut corners sometimes. So you have a situation where somebody would have gone to the governor of a particular state, like we're in Ondo State, maybe the governor of Ondo State, and say, my friend, maybe they are friends, and then they agree on something, and then they get the consent of the MC man. Which one comes first? Getting the consent to start a project or the pricing? Because of what we are having. Change today, for instance, you go price something today in the market, and then you want to use it next week. You're very sure that you cannot get it for the same price anymore. So what happens in that kind of situation?
Well, it has become almost like a recurring decimal because of the fluctuations in the market. I don't know whether you also read something on the social media, like I did, where it says that if you want to buy something and the seller gets a phone call, that is the way they put it on the social media. I said, don't allow that seller to take the call, because that call may want to tell him that the price has changed. Just buy that thing and run. So many a times that we are given prices, we always have to review them because of issues relating to price fluctuations in the market. So, but we are trying to change the method because we always have to be fluid. We have to do institute rearrangement. So we want a situation whereby the issue of price will come last.
Okay.
Do your processes. So a lot of people will go to the government to get approval.
If you're going to bought into your flow, I'm a layman, just like many people are. Let me understand, what's the process?
You prioritize, you do a price survey, but at that level, it's an approximate estimate. You are not doing the pricing benchmark. You make a decision and say, this is how we are going to do it. This is the time we want this project delivered. So it goes into your procurement plan. What you have decided, the procurement planning committee has in the section 18 of the public procurement law, what they have decided is what goes into the budget. So, and then the budget becomes the appropriation law. Without the budget, no project can be done. So it is based on the budget that an MDA will now approach the governor, okay, we want to get this done. Or it may be the governor that gives a marching order, we must get this thing done. And then, but you still have to get that in writing, approval. But before, they used to put a sum there. 2,000 naira, you want to buy a remote, just as an example, it's not going to suffice. You have to come back. And then are you going to go back to Mr. Governor to reapprove funds for you? So the price, after probably a process of competitive bidding, whether it is by international competitive bidding, national competitive bidding, a request for quotation, or even if it is a direct job, but it is at that point that Mr. Governor will now approve funds. And that is also based on thresholds, because the commissioner has a threshold which is less than $1 million, the chairman also less than $1 million, but anything above that, till whether it is for works up to 50 million naira, Mr. Governor has a threshold for any works related project. But if it is for goods and services, Mr. Governor has a threshold of 20 million naira. But if it is above 20 million naira for goods and services or above 15 million naira for works, it is the state ESCO that has the threshold, for the threshold to finally approve. So that's why I said, whether you like it or not, you will still go back to Mr. Governor or to the state ESCO to finally approve that project. So why not just delay the issue of the approval of funds till that time, so that you will get as close as possible a price to the current market price, instead of having to say that the price cannot work again. What do we do?
In the face of all of this, how well are preventing or curtailing corruption?
Well, you know, I would not want to say some certain things on there.
Okay.
We've seen a lot. We've shown that the price is the same all over the state. So you don't know what anybody wants to do. But once they come, and then they begin to probably want to argue that this should be the price. But we tell them another agency has done it at this particular rate. So there is no reason why we should not be able to do it at this particular rate. So we might not be able to fully understand how deep or how far we have curtailed such issue. We see a lot of errors. For instance, when you bring final certificates for payment, we see a lot of errors. We correct. We see it as, okay, this is human issue. But because we have a very
not deliberate
yes,
attempt
yes,
to
some of them.
swing.
So it's not. It's often always said that it's not a deliberate attempt to swing. We see a lot of errors in that some of these vendors are not properly taxed, or even at times they are overtaxed. Back in the day, years ago, I've seen a contractor that was overtaxed by 4.3 million naira. It was overtaxed. And he kept on disturbing my boss then. My boss did not even want to relate with him, because my boss used to say that our office does not relate with contractors, we relate with agencies. But eventually, because the man was importunate, so he asked me, please let me look into this. And I discovered that this man was actually overtaxed. So in the cases where they are also undertaxed, we detect all those. It's not as if we are saints, it's not as if we are that brilliant, but because we are in a position to vet, so we vet documents, we are able to certificates, it's as a red flag. Why should you not have a CAC certificate? If you give a job to a contractor and it's not registered with ODBP, ODBP registers all vendors that work with Ondo State government. Why should he not? Because before he does that, I mean, some of the things we looked at the CAC certificate, as I mentioned, we want to look at has he paid his tax up to date, development levy up to date, is his business premises registered with the Ondo State government? What is the company profile? Has he done similar jobs? Does he have the staff to do this work? And then we classify and categorize them. Classification means that, is he actually able to do this work? We don't, these days we don't allow somebody who says I'm a general contractor. There is no such thing as general contractor. If you want to do rural electrification, face rural electrification. If you want to do roads, you cannot bring the certificate of rural electrification to be doing roads. You cannot bring a pharmaceutical certificate to say you want to be using it for building construction. That used to happen back in the day. And then we categorize. We will not give the job of £1 billion to a contractor who has the capacity to do day, I was actually working on the certificate of the contractor, and the man came to my boss and he said, "What is delaying the certificate?" He said he has seen the certificate on my system. And I said, "My own system?" And he said, "Yes, he saw it." And thankfully, during that time, there was this Odoanet phone that I was using. If you call me a million times, it will register it. It will not count it. So I have to show to my boy. I said, "This man has called me 14 times. Missed 14 missed calls." So he just lined everything up like that. I said, "I never picked his call." My boss was so furious that he walked him out of the office. So there are those, I mean, like that, who just went and told a blatant lie. On my boss. It happens to so many of us. So that's one of the challenges. I mean, of course, also there are those and do that. Go and tell my boss.
And is your boss also a politician, or
yes,
is it that powerful that
he's a political
it cannot be
no, they know what I'm trying to say is that
compromise.
What they want to do is not right. Okay. For instance, I have a colleague in the office who went to inspect a project and he saw that the tiling was done on bare ground. There was no that is often called German floor, concrete floor. I mean, to use the right term. So they just laid the tiles on floor, and the guy saw it and he said he can't approve this job, that the man should go and do the proper thing. So it different ministry and the boss took his ground that you go and do the normal thing. He just wanted the job to be cleared. How could you put tiles on a ground that, I mean, bare floor? There is no concrete floor. Even it is after you even put the concrete floor, then they will now put backing on the floor. But he wanted to get it across. You know, those things, whether we like it or not, they happen and they will still happen. But our staff are so well trained. Probably it's our office is one of the offices that in our law that I think section 44 talks about offenses and penalties. So that if we are involved, God forbid that we are that greedy to get involved, that it talks about 5 years imprisonment, it talks about restitution or even something about coercing your junior staff or anything like that, any fraudulent act. So our office has a law that everybody sees and says this is a guiding light that if we are ever involved, this is the punishment that comes. Other MBAs may not have
there are laws, Mr. Kishibola, for me, does not exist.
How many establishments, how many MBAs has such laws establishing them?
My question is, despite
when people did all these electoral brigandages and all that, there was never a law to prosecute them. So if anybody does any such thing in the ODPP, there is a law to prosecute them. So it is enough detraction.
How then does your bureau deal with procurements that don't go through contracts? I'll give you an instance. That there are some agencies that are RRAs, and
sorry, what is RRA?
Those are revenue retention agencies.
Okay.
So how do you deal with, for instance, a case of a particular agency, it cannot execute its own project, perhaps lack of capacity to do the same, so another MDA will have to. Or maybe outright failure to execute such project. What happens? If I go back to the issue of
that's a multifaceted question, because you mentioned the issue of revenue retention agency, like probably Osrc, you do advertisement, some of our schools, they collect fees and all that, and then you want to buy diesel. We are probably running on diesel now. You can't afford to fail. Now, procurement is very flexible. So, for instance, OSRC needs diesel on a regular basis. What you need to do is to have a framework agreement at the beginning of the year, or even every 2 years. They could say all those diesel suppliers, you check their documents at any time. After you have checked their document, they also need to register. So maybe this is an information to OSRC. All your diesel suppliers, they need to register with Ondo State government. The cost of registration, I think, is just 5,000 naira. Because we call them, or we deem them non-consult. All those are fall in that category. Also printers, hospitality business, security, and all that. So have a framework agreement with them at the beginning of the year. Do a sort of pre-qualification. Have they pay their taxes to Ondo State government? Let them register. Is their business premises registered? So at any point in the year, so that there will not be delay, you can just ask them to come and supply diesel. They have already done the paperwork at the beginning of the year. So, I mean, for those revenue retaining agencies. Now, there are some projects that also will need some direct action. In the law, like I said, it is very clear. There is emergency procurement. God forbid, I mean, rain just came now and a roof of one office is blown off, and then you need to cover it immediately. You don't need to go and start doing paperwork before you cover it. Not the time to begin to do paperwork. I mean, you just start work, but keep records. It's not an opportunity to inflate some, because everything will be audited. There will be a post-auditing on everything that you have done. Make sure you keep your document, but solve the problem first of all. As a matter of fact, the World Bank, they gave Nigeria the opportunity to solve the problem, and that was why all states were given 1 billion naira at the beginning of COVID. Buy PPEs, do IDF, infectious disease centers, and IDCs or whatever. So get it done quickly. Save lives. This is not the time to write to Bureau of Public Procurement to get benchmark. No, all those ones will come later. Then there are those also direct action like the fence fell because of rainstorm. Like I said, the roof blew. I mean, get some people to come and sort it out, but there is also a threshold for that. And then apart from that, you mentioned something, that OSRC watch the ride and then the hand will be clean. We need to imbibe that a lot. If we want to do promotion exercise, those OSRC want to do promotion exercise, people from Civil Service Commission will come, they will come from the Office of a Staff, they will come from the Service Matters to come and do all these things. OSRC will not just do that on its own. So all these offices, they have their schedules. I mean, they have the professionals who can handle it, and every office in Ondo State should be doing like that. So if you don't have the capacity to handle a direct labor project, don't say you have done it on your own. That aside, one of the errors we have made in the past in Ondo State is 7.5% VAT. Not all goods are vatable. Agricultural items, books, drugs, they are not vatable. But somebody will just copy and then paste. I remember back in the day I was asked to go and inspect the retention of some goods that were supplied to the Ministry of Education, special education. The cane that those students used to work, the braille or whatever. And the immediately that came to my mind was that, why should that be retentionable? I mean, whoever that is holding the cane, do I know where the person is? So we don't do copy and paste. Every contract must have its merits and demerits based on negotiation and a lot of things. So now, if you have your terms of contract, you could easily invoke that aspect that talks about non-implementation and determine that contract is being followed. So a school, the Ministry of Education in this case, Teaching Service Commission, they should have a procurement officer to say that you have the project of a block of 6 classrooms and it's not being implemented. What does the term of the contract say? Don't follow with this copy and paste contract. There should be a contract, the actual contract that has been executed. Yes, that project that has been executed by all parties. There must be some establishment in the state. So if they are not doing the work right, you have the right to stop the project. You could also report that, okay, the person who has been assigned to this project from the Ministry of Lands and Housing or from the Ministry of Works or from whichever office is not even coming to site, report the person to his accounting officer. So to ensure that justice is done.
I understand your bureau embraces electronic price benchmark. I'd like to know what's the motivation behind that method.
Because most things, the most requests that we get is for benchmarks, and that is a thing of the past now. So we are probably being saved a lot of money in stationery. Talking about the paper we used to print, and at times we print like 2-3 copies. So if you have some of these road contracts, their payments are very big, and then we print, one goes to the cabinet, our office, the client office and all that. So there is no such thing anymore now. We are saving a lot of money on stationery. And then apart, you can work from anywhere in the world. I mean, with our electronic benchmarking. I learned something during the COVID period. You will see the presenter was in his house, probably presenting, anchoring a program. In fact, there was a case of one of their presenters, was the same Chris Cuomo, who himself had COVID. So in his own house, he was in his basement, and yet he was presenting from the basement of his house. So if we are faced with such a challenge, anybody can work from home doing this. Even if it involves any office, all it just matters is that the staff that is in charge of the handle, their portal, we just send to all the PPP. And those people can also be working from home. There was a particular time that my boss, my DG, had to travel out of the country, and seamlessly work was going on, because as he was receiving the request, it was also sent. We have a paperless environment.
That sounds like a huge automation plan as well.
Yes.
But beyond these, what are the other plans of automation of the ODPPP?
Yes, we actually have started. And all that, I mean, which they brought the idea of electronic government procurement, because if COVID was a communicable disease, if I touch a paper and you touch it, and then it may transmit and all that. When you are doing bid opening, I mean, people come close to each other, it may cause COVID and all that, it may transmit it. So the idea came, okay, let's do electronic government procurement. And Ondo State bought into it. Ondo State was one of the states that was a signatory to that program, and we actually awarded 57 contracts by electronic government procurement. We had 4 pilot agencies: the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and our office. The governor then, the late Arakuni Akredo, now. So the idea was that all the processes involved in procurement, as a matter of fact, as a contractor, you register online too. You submit your bids online. Your project will be evaluated online. your letter of award will be an e-award. All the processes, you know, it was an exciting thing for everybody in the office that, oh wow, this is a new thing, this is novel, this is innovative, and we are looking forward to upscaling that to other agencies this year. I mean, subject to some approval and all that, so I cannot talk so much on that.
Okay.
But we want agencies to be more involved. Technology is where the world is going on to, and we cannot afford to be left.
Let me understand what's the relationship between. What's the relationship like?
We work a lot hand in glove. As a matter of fact, they have a staff of their office as a desk officer.
Okay.
Because before we register vendors, they have to bring their receipts.
Yeah, okay.
And it comes to verify them. You know, it's one of those things that you ask, are there people who are trying to circumvent? Yes, it's because we discover that some people, not civil servants this time around, maybe vendors who are trying to do some mischievous or scrupulous things. So he has to come and are always from the BPP. So when we have the pre-treasury board, and then the House of Assembly hearing, we always have things that are in the budget are not excessively overquoted.
Now, permit me, I might be so passionate about corruption because you agree with me that if not the biggest bane of our development, it is one of them. Now, some people will tell you that, okay, a laptop is sold for 30,000 naira, and that's the unit price. But the executive price, so they bring a coinage, they say the executive price is 80,000 and sometimes way beyond market value. If it happens, what do you do?
But to start with, there is no such thing as executive price. I don't know.
So what's coinage do you use?
Another one I'm hearing for the first time. Now, the issue with laptop is that laptop varies.
Very well.
And now, agency sends us. And so when you are sending us a request, you must do proper justification to your specifications. You must do it, and another part in procurement, specification writing is a subject matter on its own. So if you want a laptop like this, you must tell us what kind of laptop without even branding it. We don't want to know whether it is HP or whether. If you need a laptop for editing, that laptop has to be the heavy kind because you are going to be handling
Videos.
I mean, a lot of soundbite, a lot of visions and all that. So at times some ministry will just say they need some huge laptop called i5. What do you need these things? So we've had to downgrade them to the capacity that they need. And this is how we save the government money. So if you are talking of Ministry of Information, they do a lot of some agencies, maybe because they put their cadastral surveys, maybe the office of the Surveyor General or border or whatever, they might need something heavy. Or if you are just writing letters, I mean, you write a lot of letters. It doesn't take a lot of megabytes. It doesn't take a lot of gig to do that. So if you now ask for some, I mean, laptop of high grade, question that.
How do you also ascertain that what has been specified in the document is what was actually bought eventually?
Yes, because we go to certify. Our professionals go to certify. We have IT guys who can go and check. We have various professionals. We have an architect. We have
in case of 6 inches block,
yes,
against a 9 inches block.
Yes, we have say that this project has been supervised according to specifications. So because we were not there when they actually cast the floor, the suspended floor, where they put the roof trusses there. So, but we can still probably do some certain things. There are ways by which you know that is this paint okay, the paint that was used. As a matter of fact, if you just use your hand to swipe the wall, if it flakes off your hand, that means the paint is not good. You can take a vernier caliper to measure the gauge of the roof, but not in all situations that you can see. You have to go and put it right.
So, before I let you go, and very, very importantly, what do you wish ODPP does better? Maybe you just feel this is not right, we should do this better. What are the failings of ODPP?
Well, maybe not ODPP now, maybe the whole environment.
Okay.
Because ODPP cannot exist on its own. It's like if you have a pastor and there are no church members, so there is no pastor without church members. So there is no ODPP without MDAs. So what I would wish is compliance from the whole system. I mean, it pays so much. People are running away from Nigeria, the Jaffa syndrome. And where they are